Well, what do we have to do to discuss estimated ultimate recovery? Well, we just have to be honest with each other, I think. I think we have put too much faith in corporations and such that don't really have that in their best interest. That's what I think. I may be wrong, I may be right, I don't know, but I can tell you as a guy that spent a lot of his career focusing on production chemicals and not about recovery and what the well actually did. When I started truly paying attention to the amount of oil and gas that we leave stranded in the ground, it was heartbreaking. It's baffling how we can walk away from trillions of dollars of assets because it gets a little difficult. I think I have an answer. I thought I had an answer. The problem is, the answer for me is too simple. And maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I want to be honest about something. This xHRC platform that's been developed is truly unique. If it wasn't, I wouldn't still be working with it 14 years later. I wouldn't have put my life savings into quantifying and making this chemistry commercially viable. And maybe I haven't, because that's why I struggle financially, is that it is not commercially viable. Is that a chemistry problem? Is that a sales problem? Or is that an industry problem? I personally believe it's all three. I don't believe that I truly have the skills to be the salesperson I need to be because of communication issues. I don't know how to communicate how this truly could benefit an oil and gas operator. I don't know how to communicate the other avenues or opportunities that the chemistry brings to the table. But I can sit here and communicate to you that we have a major problem. When you look at the billions of dollars that have been invested in the Eagle Ford alone, and you listen to the experts discuss refracs, recompletions, drainage area, recovery factors, overall investment expenses, and you realize that we are doing a lousy job of maximizing the return on these investments. What industry exists that a 3 to 7% return on investment when you invest billions is acceptable? Does tech do that? Does tech go invest $1 billion to make 3%? I don't think so. Did Jeff Bezos get to be the billionaire he is by a 3% recovery or investment return? Did Bill Gates? No. I may be wrong, but I don't think it's possible. So when we sit here, or I sit here, and I crunch numbers and I do data research and analysis, and I see that we spend $20-something million to drill and complete a well, and we think that we've got X amount of barrels in place that could potentially equate to billions, it's mind-boggling that we're okay with 3%. You know, I this chemistry that I have, will it work on everything? Nope. Do I expect it to work on everything? Nope. Does it outperform what we're currently doing? So far, everything that I've tested against and the results we've got say yes. So why can't I find a way to get this in the ground? What is the obstacle that an oil and gas company has to not take a chance on something that's going to increase their ROI? You know, I listen to these podcasts. This morning I had the pleasure of listening to Bob Barba on the Collide broadcast, Ask Me Anything. And he basically hit the nail on the head. We've all heard of FOMO, fear of missing out. But in this industry, in our world, there's a huge fear of being first. I've crunched numbers and run scenarios and taken lab data, field data, ran them in different sets of AI programs to give me a clearer picture of what is possible. It's simple, and we all know that data is only it's only as good as the data you put in there. So I put in truth data, empirical, quantified data. I then compare that data to SPE papers, white papers, other things that are available for me to input into the AI format and run an analysis on the two. So just for shits and giggles, I looked at the public data available for Diamondback. At the time, I think they had publicly admitted they'd drilled and completed 282 wells in 2024 thus far. If, and I know if is a big word here, but if this chemistry achieved a maximum performance that's been documented, and if Diamondback had used it 100% across the board on the 282 completions that they had done, the potential revenue from the increased production would have been $4.89 billion for about a $30 million investment. I don't understand how, if you have an opportunity to make 3,000, 4,000% ROI, why you don't take advantage of it. What am I missing to get this in front of the right people? I've always been told numbers don't lie. Run the math, run the economics, figure out what the potential is. I mean, like when an operator finds a zone or a field, they run the economics. They see what the potential recovery is, and then their profit margins based off of that. Is there a guarantee they're going to hit oil? Is there a guarantee they're going to meet those numbers? No, there's not. But if there's any tool in the toolbox that could get you closer to that or exceed what you're currently doing, why do you thumb your nose at it? Why do you have the fear of being first? I'm going to tell you guys something, whether any of you hear this or not, or this is just my own personal feel-good moment. There is nothing in the chemistry that I offer, the xHR series, that will damage your formation. Absolutely nothing. There's nothing that this chemical can do that will adversely affect the performance of the formation. So you don't have to worry about sticking it in there and it's going to plug it off. You don't have to worry about sticking it in there and you're going to lose your production. Yes, certain parameters have to be right to get maximum potential out of the chemistry. But if you look at EUR factors and these things, we've done enough testing that in the Eagle Ford alone, if the situation is correct, the wettability is there, the contact angles hold true, the interfacial tension testing and the data that we've accumulated holds true, you can get upwards of 70% estimated ultimate recovery. In this podcast I listened to this morning, Bob Arbor's talking about we may only get out 20 feet, 30 feet, maybe 70 feet. But the beauty of this chemistry is if we get out 30 feet, 50 feet, 70 feet, it on its own via ion exchange will move further out in the formation. I do not know of any chemical, surfactant, nanofluid, what have you right now that will move on its own. Maybe it will, maybe it won't, but I live in my bubble and my focus is on this chemistry and how we recover more hydrocarbons from the formation. So for me to sit down and have a meeting with an operator and share the data, share the empirical data, the field data, lab data, third-party analysis, these things that I do, and be told, we're just not comfortable. You're not comfortable to potentially increase recovery by 62%? You're not comfortable that you may have a well that over 110 days has a 450% increase in cumulative production? I think what Mr. Barba has brought to the table, enlightened people on today in this podcast, or his podcast, is that we are just now starting to figure out exactly what's going on downhole. In our own hesitancy to accept the facts is hurting us. We talk about parent-child relationship, this, that, fracture conductivity, proppants, all these things. I will agree on about 90% of what he says. I will agree that at the end of the day, we've got to communicate that fracture network better to release the hydrocarbons and let them flow to the wellbore. Thus far, in my own little world that I live in, I have not seen anything outperform it. I have reached out to universities. I've asked for collaboration. The fact of the matter is, one university last week just flat out told me, after I shared everything that we've done, there's nothing we can do. There is no other testing that the university, this is a major university, could possibly do to quantify what we've already quantified and documented. That's great. That's wonderful. That means I've taken the right steps to knock down everything that needed to be knocked down to give you guys as a purchaser or end user no excuse. But we still have the excuse of fear of being first. Ladies and gentlemen, you're not first. When it comes to this technology, we've had it at our disposal for 15 years, just in my disposal. Yes, it's taken some tweaking. Yes, we've had to figure out, exactly how to apply it, in what situation. All those things had to be done, but you're not first. If I kept track of every hydrocarbon bearing formation that we have stuck this chemistry in, I promise you, we've been over 150 formations. And to give you a little bit more background, this chemistry was developed for treating water and water wells. It had NSF certification. That means I could take this chemical, put it in your water, and you can drink it legally and safely. I no longer carry NSF certification because there's no point in the oil and gas industry. We talk about ESG, we talk about green, we talk about environmentally sustainable. Nobody gives a shit. If we did, we wouldn't be using a lot of the chemicals that are still being used in the frac designs right now. So I'm going to tell you, as a 31-year veteran of this industry, we're all full of shit. It's just, how honest in your full of shit do you want to be? I choose to be as honest as humanly possible in my full of shit, because my goal is the same goal you have. Your goal is to drill a well, make as much money as you can out of it, and then go on to the next one. There's no difference. You get paid to make a productive well. I get paid to provide you with a product that makes your well productive as well. And if that product does not harm what you're already doing, and at the very worst, you get exactly what you've been doing, what is the hesitation? Why is there so much pushback from the industry that I love and have busted my ass to try to make better? I know I can't be the only one. And I know I don't play the game correctly. I know I don't go to the SPE functions. I don't go to the API functions. I don't rub elbows with people that I have nothing in common with. Those are personal issues, but those personal issues should not affect what is capable or potential with the product that could give you 62% increase in production, and in some cases 450 or 700% cumulative production increases over 110 days. That was documented, and I wish we could get more data, but COVID happened and everything went to hell in a handbasket. So I'm just trying to communicate that there are options, and the status quo is broken. You know, I don't know Bob Barber. I've never worked with the guy. I have no idea who he is, but I sit and listen to that podcast today on Collide, and the guy, in some cases in my circle, would sound like a broken record. People would look at me and it's like, you say this all the time. Yes, I do. But how is somebody like me that doesn't have a college education, that spent 30 years out in the field developing what we developed, working the way I've worked, how can I have conversations with PhD chemists, PhD physicists, actual rocket scientists, multi-billionaires, CEOs, and academia, and have a conversation that makes sense and have something productive out of it? But I can walk into an engineer's office, let's say Conoco or even Shell or even Devon, BP, I can name them all, and cannot have a legitimate conversation. I'd like to think it's just because I don't have tits, but that's not it. You know, we have failed as an industry to keep an open mind. We have failed as an industry to recognize that it was built on the little guy. I can't promise you that what I bring to the table is going to be the cure-all of and end-all of all problems, but I can promise you I give a shit better than that person sitting in Baker's office or Nalco's office or Champion X's office. Not saying that they don't care, but they're not in an organization that is truly focused on solving a problem. If they were, I wouldn't have been told by Nalco and Baker several years ago, we don't want your technology. It will bastardize 3 to 4 of our revenue streams. Halliburton wouldn't have looked at this technology, given it a product code, and then backed out of the contract because somebody in Bayreuth didn't like what this was going to do. Schlumberger wouldn't have offered me $2 million for the formula after telling me I may have $1 billion chemistry. Folks, that happened. It truly happened. I laughed because they said billion with a B and then offered me $2 million for everything that I had at the time. And I had probably about 70% less data than I have today. But that was $2 million off a potential billion-dollar chemistry. Hindsight, maybe I should have taken it, but like I'll tell you why I told them, put a zero behind it and I'll give you everything I got. So yeah, I might sound like a crazy lunatic. I may sound full of shit, but in my shit, there's truth. You know, I just want an opportunity. I want somebody to quit giving me one well here, one well over there, look at the numbers and go, well, you know, it did pretty good. We've documented success, but we're not ready to commit. You'll never fully realize the true value and potential of something if you do not commit. I can provide you with field studies. I can provide you with frac studies. I can provide you with whatever you want, but I cannot provide you the overall effect because nobody will commit to doing a program or a pilot program required to fully quantify what's going on. You know, and I will say this. So let's just say that the data that I do have can be duplicated. If we took 100 wells and we did 10, is that going to fully represent what's possible on 100 wells? I don't believe so. You know, listening to this broadcast today on Collide with Bob Barbara, they did 3 wells for I think it was Devon. If you look at the wells, one did the same, one did worse, and one did better. You cannot establish a trend with 1, 2, or 3 wells. It's impossible. Yet here I sit here and record this, and I'm promoting what happened on 3 wells as true frac dynamics. But I'm being honest and tell you it was 3 wells, 3 results, 3 different applications, 3 different treatment rates, but these are the numbers. Now, I can tell you that those numbers correlate to all of the field work that we've done. Part of the reason I went and met with Texas A&M Kingsville yesterday was for the simple reason that they are a chemical engineering and natural gas engineering department. Where's Kingsville, Texas? Smack dab in the middle of the heart of South Texas, that before the Eagle Ford was primarily just a natural gas area. You know, before the Eagle Ford kicked in, the majority of my career was spent on natural gas wells. We didn't have oil wells. We had the little shallow pump and pump jacks and all that crap, but those didn't make you money, so nobody chased them. You know, you could sell a drum of emulsion breaker or a problem here and there, but it didn't pay the bills. But we've stranded billions, or I say trillions of cubic feet of gas in South Texas because of our reliance on people and service companies that do not have the long-term objective of recovering every bit of recoverable gas or recoverable hydrocarbons. Their employees and their management are worried about collecting a paycheck. They don't care if they damage your asset. Yeah, you want to boost production, we're going to boost production. Well, I can tell you right now, I worked for James Archer, founder of Multichem, now owned by Halliburton. Halliburton destroys everything. Sorry, Halliburton, but it's the damn truth. You buy it, you ruin it, put it on the shelf. The majority of the gas wells that have been treated with surfactants, I believe, have plug-in issues caused by the surfactants. Well, what's the solution? Oh, we're going to run a solvent down there, and we're going to pump a little bit more acid, or we're going to do a wash. Has anybody actually went in and done some core studies to find out what that's doing to that formation? I don't think so. In my history, I haven't seen it. So I believe that what I have can increase recovery on assets that are marginal at best right now. And if we can design a recovery program and identify the damage, we can make these assets higher performing and increase the ROI. I believe that 110%, and it's no different than what everybody's doing. It's no different what Shell's doing or Chevron's doing or Oxy's doing in their own labs. But the problem is, if it doesn't come from their lab, it can't be done. The negativity, the fear of being first, the fear of validation or justification needs to go away. If this is the way the oil field would have started out, we wouldn't have an oil field. You do things based on the potential. I could potentially hit a gusher. I'm going to drill right here. I could potentially become a millionaire. I'm going to invest right here. I could potentially increase your production upwards of 60 to 70% EUR. Is that actually viable in today's world? Not unless you have the perfected frac design, the perfected fracture network, the perfected recovery mechanisms. Everything has to be perfect. But if I could give you something that is documented that it will release 60 something to 90% of the oil in place that it comes into contact with, how is that not a win for you? Think about this. In every test that I've done, the recovery factor, bench test, frac test, I can take a known sample of oil, a volume of oil, place it in different grades of frac sand, driveway sand, gravel, what have you. Treat the fluid that I'm going to put on top of it with this chemistry, and recover on average 95% of that oil that I stick in there. 95%. There is a major international chemical company that has put out tests and studies. I've duplicated every one against their own chemistry. In every test I have, I'm between 50 and 65% better than what they do. And they're a multinational, multi-billion-dollar chemical company. Yet I can sit down in your office and you will choose them over me because they're a multinational, billion-dollar chemical company. We're in the situation that we're in today because these big chemical companies have sat in your offices and have told you, we've got this new chemical that will increase recovery. We need complex nanofluids. We need to create microemulsions. We have all these things, these fancy names that are going to increase recovery. And about 60, 70% of the time, it's never worked. And I'm going to say it's probably greater than that. That's why there's so much hesitancy to listen to somebody like me that says, here's the data. But I will tell you the biggest difference. I watched what those chemical companies did. I was part of some of those programs. Because of who they are and as big as they are, they can walk into your office and say, we have this. They're going to prop up their marketing. They're going to exaggerate their results. They're going to get you to commit to something. And when it doesn't work, what are you going to do? Nothing. You're just going to have a hesitancy or a reluctancy to believe the next person that comes in there. So what I had to do was go out to the field, use this chemistry, document the results, quantify those results, and then go to a lab and say, hey, these are the results that we're getting in the field. What kind of testing do I need to do to see if we can quantify that and duplicate these results? I didn't do that in my lab. I don't have chemists doing that. I had to go to a third-party lab. So at the end of the day, I'm going to ask you a few questions. Are you interested in maximizing hydrocarbon recovery? 2, are you married to your current provider? 3, are you scared of the positive results. I'm going to leave you guys with that. Have a good day.